All right, welcome. We're on the air with Pat Campbell. How you doing, Pat?
I'm doing well. Yourself, sir?
Good, man. Thanks for joining me. As you guys know, I'm doing this series where I'm kind of working through all the 21 convention speakers, and we're going to cover some chat today about optimizing your hormone panel as you kind of age as a man, as you go into the autumn years of your life. You want to become the best version of yourself, so you're not utterly useless to yourself and your family. You did a talk in the fall in Orlando, and you covered a few things. Can you kind of distill that version of the talk? I know it'll be available on the 21 Studios channel at some point in the future. So without giving away the full details.
I talked about a lot of things. I talked about some experiences with my family, my kids. Talked about an experience with my daughter shopping for a dress. And that was something that Jack Murphy liked because he had been on my program not long ago, and he has a daughter right in that age group. And talked a little bit about that. Talked about just the mindset for guys. Unfortunately, and Rollo points this out quite a bit. Rollo Tomasi from the Rational Male. Most guys in this country, in your country too, in Canada, we've been trained to think that the woman is the prize. She's the catch. It's that whole Disney princess one-itis kind of thing. And the thinking's backwards. You got to reverse engineer your thinking. You're the prize. You're the attraction. And that's like counterintuitive to everything we've been taught in this country. But the guy should be the one that's working on himself, improving himself, making himself valuable enough that women want you rather than you chasing women around. And it's a 180 on the mindset that most guys have out there. And when you say that, you look in the crowd and it's like, I never heard that before. It's a radical concept when you hear it the first time. And I also got into something I didn't really intend to get into, but having conversations privately with people that went to the 21 convention, I got a lot of, I don't know, for some reason, people thought I knew something about testosterone. So we got into conversations about hormone replacement therapy. In fact, that's how we really hit it off. You and me, we sat down at a table and just started rapping, and I could tell we had a lot to talk about. That really was a big part of my talk, probably about, 40% of my talk when I went to the 21 convention. And that seemed to generate the most feedback from people in the audience, especially guys 40 and older that just, they didn't feel right anymore. They didn't feel like their old selves. They would go to a doctor and they would, rattle off the symptoms to the doctor. And the doctor would say, well, it sounds like you're depressed, and they want to give you an antidepressant. But the reality is that a lot of the symptoms that go with low T are almost identical to depression. And the only way you can really tell is with a blood test. Most doctors want to put you on antidepressants when, in fact, what you might need is hormone replacement therapy. And I spent a good chunk of my talk on that. And like I said, that's probably what I.
Can you talk about your dad and what you learned from his experience with that
Sure.
lowering of his testosterone?
Yeah. So my dad, who's still alive, he's 82. He was diagnosed with prostate cancer. And the doctors gave him a series of shots, and my dad was always the strong, quiet, silent, stoic type. That's my dad. I'm the oldest of 13, but my dad was the pillar, right? And so they gave him a series of shots that completely shut down his testosterone. And when you do that, your body compensates because the body always wants to stay in balance. So you shut down the testosterone. What does the body do? It jacks up the estrogen. So my dad's personality radically changed. My dad became moody. My dad became bitchy. My dad became emotional at times. It wasn't my dad. It was somebody else living in my dad's body. What it was excessive amounts of estrogen. And, when I would joke around with him, hey, mom tells me you're watching a lot of Lifetime movies. He didn't think that was funny at all. I mean, he would get pissed off about that kind of stuff, getting in touch with your feminine side. But when he ceased the treatment, it was funny because he didn't like the shots because they cost too much, despite the fact that his insurance company was covering them. The shots were like several $1,000s each. He felt that was too much to spend on himself. It's a crazy mindset from when he was a kid growing up. He was born during the Depression.
Was that shots for the estrogen to deal with the prostate cancer, or was it the testosterone?
The shots actually shut down your testosterone.
Yep.
And as a result, your natural estrogen rises. That's why when you see guys 40, 50, 60 older, they get soft in the chest. They get the man boobs. They get the love handles. And it's they can be exercising the same. They can do all the cardio they want. But your body chemistry has changed. Your testosterone's dropped. Your estrogen's gone up. That's why you look the way you do. So when my dad stopped taking the shots and his prostate cancer is in remission, slowly but surely, because he didn't go for hormone replacement therapy. In fact, he wouldn't be a good candidate. If you've had prostate cancer, they generally won't take care of you unless you get a doctor that's really out there and is willing to work with you. But slowly, as his body started to return to balance, he became his old self again. But that told me about the importance of testosterone. I said it at the 21 convention, testosterone maketh the man. It really is what makes the difference between us and women. They have testosterone, but they've got a tiny, tiny little fraction of what we have. And we need estrogen in our body. If we don't have estrogen, your joints will ache. You'll have all sorts of problems. But we have a minute amount of estrogen compared to women. And then we were just talking off air. You've been on hormone replacement therapy for what, seven months, you said?
Since March last year, so it's coming up on a year now.
Okay, so let me ask you this. What prompted you to go on?
You know what it was? I think I always knew that it was something that I would have to do. I wasn't sure what it was called, but I remember in my 20s, I got a book called it was written by Dan Duchesne. What the hell?
I know exactly.
The Steroid Bible or something like that, or
the
the World Anabolic Review.
Yeah.
Which I believe was 95 or something like that. And I was in my 20s and I was thinking about using either Decadurabolin or Primobolin as I was going through it because I didn't want to lose my hair.
Right.
And I never touched the stuff. Like I had a friend of mine that did Deca in his 20s for bodybuilding reasons, and he just blew up. Like he just puffed right up. And those doses were quite large, if I recall. They were like minimum 500 a week. Right. And I'm on like 120 a week. Anyway, so back to your question. I just knew something was off. It was about, I don't know, 2 years ago. And I had a hard time focusing. I had really bad brain fog, couldn't sleep properly at night. My left knee was giving me all kinds of trouble. When I would go to the gym, I was ineffective. Like I was weak. And that wasn't like me. Like I'm used to pressing like 245-pound plates aside when I did bench. Like I'm used to moving heavy stuff.
Right.
And not only did I feel weak, but I felt unmotivated. So I got my blood panels checked actually about a year before that with a spit test, which is totally ineffective. It's a waste of your time and money, by the way, guys. It's not able to track what you're looking for, and you can't get a full panel anyway. This is on a recommendation of a friend, and everything seemed fine. And a year later, I went for a full blood panel. I found a HRT clinic, hormone replacement clinic here, close to where I live. I visited the doctor. He did a free consult. We pulled blood. He said, he could tweak it up and make me feel better. He started by prescribing DHEA, which is something you need a script for here in Canada. I know that in the States, you can just go to a health food store. Yeah. So we started with that, and that didn't do anything. That didn't really move the bar, and it actually lowered my T level a little bit for some reason. My estrogen went up, but nothing really changed. And he said, do you want to try testosterone? I said, yeah, let's give it a shot. And off I went. And almost immediately, like the first weekend, I was like, whoa, this is awesome. It was basically like because the way that it works, generally speaking, is it's testosterone optimization, basically. So if you're optimized here, but you're sitting around here, you're not quite optimal, you're not feeling good. But your first stab is going to get you well above an optimal level. So you'll feel incredible. And
so I remember when you got your test measured, two things you need. You need your total testosterone and your free. Your free is so important because that's what your body's able to actually utilize. But when you got your T levels checked, what did they originally come in at?
I can tell you because I keep it handy. In fact, it's a new file that I measure. Like I said, guys, on my channel, you can't manage what you're not measuring. So I keep everything together in my pin clip here. Now I've had about, I don't even know how many labs I've done. It's like about 6 or 7. But when they came in originally, they were, we use a different set of measurement scale here in Canada. Of course, we got to use kilometers for speed on the highways, so we're in a different system. But my vitamin D was in the basement. It was 59, and
that's not unusual. 70% of the population is vitamin D deficient.
Yeah. And that was the first thing that we dialed in was I started up in my vitamin D level, and I started with pills, but pills don't work. You need an oil-based vitamin D for it to be taken in your body. Like vitamin D is fat soluble, so I switched over to a spray. You just open up your mouth, you spray it. I usually give it about 5 to 7 sprays a day, and that gets me up to about 7 to 8,000 IU per day, which got me in the normal range, which worked well. Estradiol was at the high end of the range too. It was at 159, and the high end was less than 162 PMOL/L. I don't know
what is the range in Canada? I wasn't aware that you guys had a different range.
Yeah. It's less than 162 PMOL/L, and I was right at the top of the range. Like I was 159. And
that's not necessarily a bad thing, though.
It's not.
Right.
It's not. I mean, it's a bad thing if you end up with gyno, which I'm not susceptible to. But I did have like the tender nipples about a year before, and I didn't know what that was. And the doctor was asking me, your nipples ever tender? I was like, yeah, okay. And then he asked, the other qualifying questions, like, do you wake up with morning wood all the time, sort of thing.
I want to talk about that. That's so, people ask, how can I tell without getting a test whether or not I've got low testosterone? And I go to the morning wood question. We'll get to that in a bit. Go ahead.
Yeah. So back to your question about bioavailable testosterone, 3.6 is the low end of the scale to 11.2. And again, that's NMOL/L. I was at 9.2. Okay. And that to me wasn't optimal. Like I wasn't feeling strong. I wasn't able to lift heavy weight. I wasn't motivated. I had brain fog. I couldn't get a lot done. I was screwing the pooch a lot. I wasn't focused. I mean, I make more money now. I mean, even what I pay to administer this to myself, to optimize myself, I make like 10 times more than what I pay into this to myself.
Yeah.
So, like another byproduct of it is you will make more money. Like you'll hustle more. It's just so bizarre. So I wasn't in the basement like some guys have said. Like I've seen some people say here in the chat that they've tested around 288, and that's a different measurement scale.
That's here in the States.
288 is very low, right?
Yeah, in the States, generally the low range being 245, maybe 300, high up to about 1100. Ideally, you want to keep yourself in the high normal or the high level, but you don't want to go above it because that's when the side effects kick in. So you try to keep yourself down here. I would try to keep myself up around the 1,000 range, maybe 1,100, depending on what doctor you're working with. But you want to optimize your testosterone levels. And a lot of guys, somebody said 240. Was that what you said on the chat? It
said 288, which is exceptionally low. That's like a woman, basically. Like
you're a eunuch. You're a eunuch. You're going to be singing in a boys' choir. That's how bad things are.
Yeah,
I'm serious. And that doesn't include the total test or the free testosterone, which is another measure. So back to your story. I'm a lot like you. With me, I had been a competitive power lifter for probably a good 20 years. Okay, and I'm used to going into the gym and grinding it out. And right around 45, maybe 46, I just didn't feel like myself anymore. I felt like I was, you ever see a pressure cooker where like the steam's just building up and building up and building up, almost like I had too much coffee. I didn't feel like myself. I had anxiety. And when I was going to the gym, I wasn't recuperating the way I should anymore. In fact, it turned out I had a really low IGF-1 level, which we'll get into a little bit later. And I was getting freaky injuries. I'm a guy that...
I got a lot of injuries too, like, back spasms and shoulder injuries, and just random things. Like my knee started to give out. I couldn't even ski on basic hills here in Ontario in the wintertime with my daughter on a green run without my knee bothering me.
Right. What got me to go to the doctor that eventually helped me was I had an injury. I was doing speed squats in the gym, and there wasn't a lot of weight. For me, at least, it wasn't a lot of weight. It was 315, and I was doing 15 sets of 2 with 30 seconds in between. And on the third or fourth set, I went down, and something popped, and I'm thinking my quad. I tore my quad. And if you do that, you're done. It's over. You're finished, right? And I was able to rack the weight, and when I went down, my quad wasn't torn. But what I had was a great big hole. There is a clear, it's not plastic, but there's a clear covering that covers your muscle, the fascia. And I had blown a hole in my thigh, and the muscle was like popping out from it. It's like, I've never seen an injury like that. And I went to the doctor and I said, what the hell is that? And can you fix it? And he said, I can't fix it. He said, it'll heal on its own. And it did. He said, but let me do some blood work on you. He says, because I think you might have a problem with either your testosterone or your IGF-1, and both were on the low range, right? Mm-hmm. And people see me and they think, well, testosterone, he wants to take testosterone so he gets big or he can lift weights. That's a nice little side effect. And they also push on the commercials a lot, the libido, which is also a positive side effect. when we were at the 21 convention, I told guys the number one reason you should be on hormone replacement therapy, if you're a guy over 40, is for your head. It keeps your head straight. It's what makes the guy. Without it, as it declines, your performance declines. You get that brain fog that you were talking about.
Totally agree.
Yeah. And it really, it's almost, I remember seeing Sylvester Stallone on the Today Show when Matt Lauer was still on there. And he is of the belief that every guy over the age of 40, okay, who can afford it, should be not only on testosterone replacement therapy, but also human growth hormone, HGH, as well. And the two of those, and I lived in Florida from, what was it, 2004 through 2008. And that's like ground central for a lot of these longevity clinics. And I would see guys that were, maybe late 40s, early 50s coming into the fitness facility, and all of a sudden they had a little spring in their step. But there's a synergy when you use these two together. The problem is with the HGH, it's very expensive to legitimately get it through a doctor. And we're not talking gray market here or anything like that. You're going to be dropping at least $1,000 a month just for like 2 IUs per day, which is all you really need. But you take that and you combine it with testosterone, and it's like magic. There's a synergy. You sleep better. Your body performs better. You feel better with the two together. You know how testosterone feels. Great. It feels great just with that. But imagine enhancing that, and that's what those two things combined do. Now, the problem with that is if you are predisposed to maybe cancer, maybe you've got some dormant cancer cells in your body, feeding it growth hormone at 40 or 50 or 60 could be flipping a switch. You might not want to switch. So it's a personal decision that every guy has to make for him or herself. And there's a big price tag on it. Now, some people actually work for companies that'll cover it. I'm not one of those people right now, but that's a lot of money. With the hormone replacement therapy, realistically, I don't know what you're spending up in Canada, but it's realistic to spend maybe $200-300 per month total for all the blood work and, the testosterone, the Arimidex, the HCG, all covered there. You throw in the human growth hormone, that's an extra $1,000 per month. You got to be bringing in some good bread.
It's about $300 a month the way that you do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think for me with the blood labs and everything in, I'm going to say, and I got a script for DHEA, testosterone cypionate, and HCG, and that's around $200 a month. I think I would average it out.
Right.
So it's around the same price. The same thing here with HGH is it's very expensive too. I think it's about $1,000 a month. I don't need it. I had my HGH pulled on my last labs, and it's right at the top of the range. So one of the things that my body does is when it's high on T, it manufactures more HGH.
That actually could solve that problem right there. Once you start,
true. Yeah. What is your protocol right now? Let's talk about that.
So initially when I started, back in the day, the first time they were prescribing testosterone cypionate, and the doctor for the initial dose starting was 300 milligrams once every 2 weeks. Now, the problem with that is you get a nice spike, but you also get the down. And you don't want that. That's sort of old school. That was, I don't know what year it was. It was back in before
that's when they would have you go into the clinic, so you had to keep going and paying them to have them administer it for you.
Well, he would let me do it at home.
Oh, he would? Okay.
But still, he wanted you doing it every 2 weeks because that was the protocol.
Yeah.
Now, what I do right now is I give myself 2 shots per week. One on Monday, one on Thursday. And my dose is much less. My dose is 150 milligrams. I think you said yours was 125.
Yeah.
And I break it into two. 75 and 75.
Yeah.
The reason for that is with guys with testosterone, you want to keep it constant. You don't want the spikes. You don't want the ups, the downs. You want to keep it constant. And that's the way to do it.
Do you use HCG as well?
I'm not right now. Probably because I'm at a stage right now. I've got 5 children. My youngest is 15. Although I'm hearing that I should be doing that because it's important, especially with regard to sleep. And
it apparently backfills your other hormone pass. I think it's pregnenolone.
Yes.
Which shuts down when you're just on testosterone cypionate. So you need HCG for that to backfill. And there's receptors all throughout your body too.
Right. And I've used that before. They'll put you on like 250 milligrams twice per week. Is that what you use?
Yeah. So I just put it in the same pin. So I'm not doing multiple pins. So I just put it in the same syringe.
Mm-hmm. Do you do yours IM or sub-Q?
IM. I just go in the butt cheek.
Okay.
So it's pretty easy. I think I'll probably switch to sub-Q because I'm starting to get some scar tissue. Like it's harder to push the pin in now.
Right. Right.
What do you do?
I am. The reason I asked is there was a clinic down here that does some advertising on one of the radio stations I work for. And there's a guy by the name of Frank Trigg, who's an MMA Hall of Famer, former, MMA wrestler. And he had been doing IM for, I think he said like 8 or 10 years. And all of a sudden IM quit working. It just didn't work anymore. So the doctor had him switch to sub-Q, which is just pretty much like diabetics take insulin. You pull the skin out of the stomach and you use an insulin pen. And he said, boom, everything worked again. So sometimes you got to switch it up apparently, but they'll have you on testosterone, and there's various kinds. There's cypionate, ethionate. Some you mentioned DECA before. Some clinics will put people on low doses of DECA. And
let's talk about DECA in a minute. Let me just get the super chat over here because we got a super chat from Austin, and he's asking, how was your sex life change being on TRT? How long into it before you noticed a libido difference? Like right away?
Yeah, it's instantaneous. It's If you don't notice something within the first 2 weeks, something's not working. Now there could be other things going on. If you're diabetic, if you're overweight, if you're a smoker, okay, all of those things are going to maybe slow down the process. But you should be feeling something within the first 2 to 3 weeks, and definitely the libido. I get back to the morning wood. People say, well, how do I know if I have low T? Without any blood work, my question I ask any group of men is, are you getting wood, morning wood on a regular basis? And I look out at the crowd and, there's some people there that look surprised,
Well, some of these guys forget because it's like when you're 19 years old and you wake up and you're pitching a tent, you basically have to do a handstand to take a leak because your Johnson is admiring the chandelier, right? Like it's full salute. Like, you can't do any work, with that.
Pissing at the angle. I know what you're talking about.
But guys don't notice it because it's such a small, gradual decline in T levels. Whereas for women, it's like when they hit menopause, it's a tank right away, and they notice it. They get the cold sweats, the hot sweats. Like the clinic that I go to, I'm going to say about 2/3 of the people that I've seen go there are women. Like it's not men that are using these services, although I think more men should be. Men get shamed for doing it, which is unfortunate, but women are, it's okay. Like you go girl, like do what's right for you, Well,
that's that. There's a stigma associated with men doing it. And by the way, andropause is a much slower, progression or decline than menopause for women. So, but there is andropause, and it's much slower, and it's so slow that you just don't notice sometimes you're losing those things. But if you're not getting morning wood on a regular basis, that's a good sign that you've got low T or something else is going on with your system. And that tells you maybe I should get my testosterone checked, my levels checked. And when you go to get them checked, you want to have the doctor, don't let the doctor just give you total testosterone, because if they're just doing that, they don't know what the hell they're doing.
You want total testosterone.
Get total testosterone or free, which is the free testosterone as well. You want to measure your estradiol, and there's some other hormones you want to measure as well. But you need both of those numbers to know where you're going next.
Yeah, you want a full panel. Somebody here put in the comment, Learn Life Coach said, I pay $150 a year for my TRT doc and $35 a month for testosterone from my local pharmacy here in Ontario. So I'm in Ontario. My doctor charges $900 a year. His first year is $1,100 and he charges $900. And then he basically takes care of you whenever you need to see him. So $150 a year for a TRT doc is super cheap. But for me, like, I'm happy to pay that. He's local. He knows what he's doing. He works with me really, really well. So yeah, there is a cost associated to it. But I mean, when you look at the cost benefit analysis, like the juice is totally worth the squeeze. It is so worth the squeeze. Anybody that's considering doing it or not doing it should really just like go and get the labs checked and see where you're at. And if you're suboptimal, you can fix it.
So, and there's a number of options too, because some guys don't like needles. All right.
Yeah. People are asking about tabs, creams, injections.
Okay. Let's go through some of those. Okay. Yeah. So the creams for me are a no-go because I'm married. I've got kids. I've got daughters. I don't want my laundry mixed in with anyone else's. I don't need my 15-year-old daughter growing a beard. You know what I'm saying?
What about these new scrotum creams? Because Jay Campbell was telling me that he was going through these clinical tests where he's putting the cream on his nuts, basically.
I'll leave that to Jay. I haven't experimented with that, but I would think you would run into the same problem with clothing. Plus, if you're a heavy, I sweat a lot. I sweat like a beast, right?
Yeah.
It's going to mean more frequent application, or if you take a lot of showers, that's another problem. It wasn't a practical one for me. Okay. The other thing is some places do pellets, but the problem with pellets can be, and not always, because they've made some recent innovations in that. Pellets are nice in that it's a one-time deal. You know, a lot of places here in the States now, they'll put them in and they last for 6 months, okay? And they're time release, all right? But the problem with it is if you have any reaction to it, it has to be taken out. Making sure
it's surgery. Like you could get an infection.
Well, yeah, but it's minimally invasive. It's not major stuff. But it's a convenient thing. You don't have to give yourself shots all the time. And the problem with it, though, is I'm not convinced that it stays as constant as doing the 2 shots a week that we talked about, because that's what you want to keep it. You want to keep it level all the time. Women's hormone replacement therapy is a whole another thing, very complex.
It's a different cocktail.
And they try to get them to mimic their natural cycle, their natural cycle that they have from month to month. Where with guys, you just want to keep it level. That's the whole deal.
Definitely.
So you've got that. You've got there's patches too. You got patches. You got creams.
They got nasal sprays as well. Nasal sprays, which give you a nice headache, apparently.
Yeah. I've never tried those, but the shot to me was the practical way to go.
It's simple. Like these vials have been around for what, 70, 80 years. They've been around for ages. It's a bioidentical molecule to what your balls make.
Right.
It's easy to administer. A needle doesn't hurt that much. And I'm needle phobic. Like I'll tell you straight up, I'm a pussy. And I figured it out. Like, it's not that hard. You don't even feel it. It's a very small needle. The entire process takes 5 minutes twice a week. That's it.
Right. Yeah. It's a convenience thing. What else were you asking about? We were talking about the various methods.
Yeah. So we covered the methods of administration. We got a couple of questions here. Somebody was asking about test boosters. And test boosters, John, actually, I think John's in my community. His face looks familiar there. Test boosters are a waste of your time and money. There's nothing that works. I mean, the only thing that's a real test booster is picking up heavy shit, eating good food, making sure your vitamin D is dialed in. Things like, you're supplementing with zinc and magnesium, right. Eating shellfish, whenever you can, eating meat, of course, is grass-fed, stuff like that. And of course, minimizing things that are going to maximize estrogen in your body, like, what are they called? Xyloestrogens or something like that. They're in like all kinds of like hair conditioners and skin creams and gels.
Xenoestrogens, like this plastic bottle here. It's loaded.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Right. Stuff like that. But anything that's advertised as a testosterone booster is a waste of your time
and
money.
Of the health food stores that are pitching you, these tablets to take, they're a complete waste of time. You may as well just go outside and throw your money into the road.
And some guys get goose. I remember there was this test done once where they sent in these test boosters for analysis, and they found that there was micro doses of Viagra in them. So you take them and you think they're working because you get like a little bit of a boner, when the wind blows, and you're like, oh wow, this must really be working. My testosterone's going right up. If it's coming from China, especially stay away from shit like that, because they like to goose you with stuff. The only thing that's going to work, and it's not expensive, is, for some people it's as little as $35 a month, is getting a script and using the vial and just, administering it yourself. And you're not going on a bodybuilding dose. Like a bodybuilding dose, let's talk about that. That's anywhere from like 500 to 1,000 milligrams a week. We're talking like 120 to 150 a week. It's considerably lower. And you can get really one of the
biggest misunderstandings is they're talking about like, well, isn't that like, taking steroids like bodybuilders do or professional athletes? No, it's completely different. Yeah. Because what they do is they take in many cases, professional bodybuilders, they're taking a gram or more a week. I mean, easily, right? And their levels, they're not just in the high, like I said, getting up to 1,000 or 1,100. They're like 3,000, 4,000. It's insane. And when you get that high, especially when you stay on it all the time like that, the side effects associated with it are just, the juice is not worth the squeeze. You have all sorts of problems, and you wind up taking all sorts of other drugs to combat all of the side effects. This is completely different. This is putting your body back into balance, and you're getting yourself into the high normal range. That's the key. Now, go ahead.
Yeah, the best way to sum it up, I watched a video that Joe Rogan had clipped out. It was on like a Joe Rogan clip sort of channel. He was talking about being on TRT. And I saw this before I decided to do it. And the thing that sold me was just like, yeah, I've been doing it for 11 years. Why wouldn't you do it? Like, why wouldn't you want to be optimized?
Right.
He's like, you don't go messing around with bodybuilding doses. He goes, you just want to feel like you're 28 years old again, right?
Yeah.
Like get dialed into that. And that's what you get. And like you, even with the protocol that Pat and I use right now, I can tell you right now, if you eat good and you go to the gym, because one of the other things in my folder here is I've been tracking my measurements as well. The V taper from the width from the shoulder down has improved. Body fat has dropped. I've probably put anywhere from 1/2 inch to 1 inch all around my entire body. Like, where could I? Like everywhere, neck started out at 16.5 inches, at 17 3/4. Chest was 45 1/4. It's at 46. Waist was 34. It's at 34. Arms, where's the arms? Right upper, 16 inches, 17 inches, right? Like, you're going to like, if you train properly and you eat good, you don't need a lot to get strong and lean and burn a lot of fat and put on some good muscle.
Let me talk about two things here for guys that don't even want to play around with testosterone. 2 exercises that I can guarantee you will boost your testosterone levels: squats, high rep squats. And I'm talking like at least 20 reps, or high rep deadlifts. Those 2 exercises, if you go to the gym tonight, and it doesn't have to be a lot of weight. I don't know how much you squat or something like that. Put 135 pounds on the bar and do 3 sets of 20 squats. I guarantee you tomorrow morning, you're going to wake up with wood. And the reason is because it jacks up your testosterone, and it will jack it up for 36 to 48 hours. It's the same with deadlifts. Those 2 exercises are the babies that make you grow. You want to get bigger, squat. You want to get bigger, deadlift. Those are the exercises that naturally boost your testosterone.
We got a message here from Mystery Man, and I guess Google hit it. He says your balls shut down when you take testosterone, and that's a common objection from men and from soy boys. And my answer to that is you're trying to optimize. So if you're not at an optimal level and your nuts are going to shut down, which they do anyway, that's okay. You can reactivate them with HCG.
That's what you do.
Yeah, which basically stacks with testosterone cypionate. Like probably part of the reason why I need a lower dose of test cyp than Pat does is because I'm taking HCG and I can get pretty much similar results because I'm relying on my body to backfill the other hormone pass, but I'm also topping it up. I just want to get optimized. That's it. Some guys, and one of the things that I had a problem with when I first started was I got like tingling nuts, right? Like your nuts start to hurt when
from the HCG.
No, from testosterone cypionate, because when your nuts shut down, mine started to hurt, and after like a month and a half, because he just started out on test cyp, I'm like, look, my balls are hurting. Like what's going on here? Like how do we fix this? And he goes, well, let's add some HCG to the protocol. We'll kind of tweak a little bit and see what happens. And I felt better, and also because it backfills all the other pathways that your hormones need that you don't get when you just administer test cyp, you do feel better overall. I mean, like you do come back to a place where you're sleeping better, you got more mental clarity, you're just stronger overall, you're more useful. Right.
Now that's why they take the HCG. It's to keep the nuts plump, to keep them, otherwise they're going to atrophy because they're not being used. So that's why it's part of the protocol. And the other thing, I think we talked about it too, the Arimidex or an anti-estrogen that they're going to include in there. Some places still do Noble Dex, but I don't think that's a good one to use. Arimidex is the one that's most commonly recommended here in the States.
Are you on an AI?
Yeah. They'll put you on like 0.5 twice a week on a Monday and a Thursday.
Now, did that mess with your panels for your lipids, like your good fats and your bad fats? Because apparently it changes that a little bit.
No, you've got it. Here's how it would mess with the lipids, like you're talking about. If I was taking a milligram of that every day, which would be insane, okay, but that's like what professional bodybuilders use, okay, to control estrogen. Yeah, then it would mess with it, but it's so low, it's negligible. It doesn't impact my bloods.
Yeah. So I'm not taking an AI. I use something called Super Mira Forte. which is an over-the-counter thing. It probably costs the same, but it's more of a natural product. And it seems to do the trick with getting the estrogen levels in balance so that they're not getting too high. Because what ends up happening, guys, is when you start introducing exogenous testosterone to your body, there's a certain amount of it that's going to convert to estrogen. It's just a natural process. It's called aromatization, and it just happens in your body. For guys that have more body fat, like especially more belly fat, the aromatase enzyme is a lot more active, so you're going to convert more testosterone to estrogen. You don't want that, right? So the only way to really keep it in check and manage it is with blood labs. A lot of people will try to do it by feel, or they'll try to self-administer something like this. You can do that, but you're not going to be in an optimal level if you're really not checking the labs properly, right?
Yeah. And one of the things I liked about you when I was hearing you talk about it, you check your labs 3 times a year. Bare minimum here in the States, if you're going to a legitimate clinic, they should be checking it at least twice a year. And I think I sent you a link to what a male panel looks like from Life Extension. And I just said it as an example so that people can see what they're testing, what they're looking for, and what numbers you need, to monitor as you move forward.
Yeah, and there's a good tip somebody put in here for people in Canada. If you want a cheaper TRT option, go to a nurse practitioner or a naturopath. He says they're both legally able to prescribe TRT in Ontario.
I want to throw this in too. One of my beefs with the marketing of hormone replacement therapy in the States to guys. First of all, it's marketed almost exclusively for libido, and it's so much more than that. But what they don't tell you, especially for married guys, is that this has to be a joint effort. Let's say you got a guy that's, 45, and the wife's 45, right? And all of a sudden, dad's going in for hormone replacement therapy. Within a couple of weeks, he's going to have the libido of a 28-year-old. Meanwhile, mom's headed towards menopause. Those are 2 ships that are never going to pass in the night. So that's why a lot of places, some of the more upscale places now, are asking couples to come in together, so they're in sync together, and doing, because women, there's a lot of benefits for women for hormone replacement therapy. It's a lot more complex, but it's really got to be a joint effort. Unless, like with Frank Trigg, he said that's not a problem with me. He said because his wife's 10 years younger than him. So that's the deal.
I want to hit on another question here in a second, but before I do, I always like to shout out to my channel sponsor, Tactical Soap. Scott Carr has this amazing product. It's pheromone-free soap. We've seen how Gillette has behaved against men and talked about their feelings about masculinity. This is a guy that actually supports men in the creation of content on my channel, so I can broadcast stuff like this. You guys are showering anyway. There's a coupon code for 10% off if you check out with Cooper, with the link that's pinned in the description and the top comment. Let me just scroll back up here because somebody had a good question, guys.
Those, by the way, were in the gift bag at the 21 convention for all the speakers.
Oh yeah, we're gonna have them again for sure this year. Guys, if you want your question to pop, just throw a super chat because it's hard for me to scroll up. Oh, here it is. So Stan asks, does testosterone level contribute to hair loss or loss of your hair for both of you guys? And I'll tell you this: if you have a predisposition, meaning you've already been losing your hair since you were like in your 20s, which I was, all it's going to do is it's just going to continue down that path. It's not going to really change things. You're not going to grow more hair. You're probably not going to lose it any faster. You're losing it anyway. Like in the epic Seinfeld episode, "Why hold on to scraps? Just shave your head." Right.
If you're a lot of people, you're genetically predisposed to being bald. They used to say, and I don't know if this is scientifically valid, but look to your mother's dad. In other words, your mom's dad. Was he bald? Was his hair thinning? If it was, chances are yours is going to too. With me, I started to go. I always wore my hair short. I would wear like a crew cut. I noticed it started to go a little thin in the back, probably towards the tail end of the late 30s. Maybe the testosterone accelerated it. I don't care. I shaved my head. It's who knew that this was going to be a hip look, but now it's cool. So it works for me.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like there's not many downsides to it. I mean, you'll get a little bit more body hair. Like, did you get any more body hair?
No, not really to speak of. I was worried about that because some guys, their shoulders, their back will get hairy.
It didn't change much for me, to be honest. Like my mom's side of the family is Mediterranean, so I've got some hair on my back and my shoulders, but you just need it near it, whatever you want to call it. It's gone. It's not like it's that big of a deal. There's really not that many downsides. It's only if, I think you're only going to have downsides if, the downsides to not doing it are far greater than actually doing it, believe it or not. So it's if you don't manage it properly, if your estrogen gets too high, if you're not following the protocol, if you skip a couple of weeks or something like that, and you get peaks and valleys in your testosterone levels, you're going to end up with stuff like that. I've seen some guys say that they sometimes get acne, but I mean, you can just lower your dose a little bit.
Yeah, the doses we're using, that's not an issue for me. I mean, if you were
like I don't get acne, and I used to get acne when I was a teenager all the time. Like I was a total pizza face.
Yeah, if you were taking like 600 milligrams or something like that, I would expect to get some sort of a breakout. That has not been an issue for me.
Yeah. What else can we talk about on this optimizing yourself at 40? What else have you done?
What do you mean, as far as hormone replacement therapy?
Yeah, if it's tied into hormone replacement therapy.
You know what? I want to get back to the DECA thing that you talked about.
Oh, yeah.
That's also some clinics. And there's a plus side to this. If you've got joint problems, especially arthritis, DECA is supposed to be very good for joint issues. Some people say it makes you retain water in the joints. I don't know if that's true or not. The danger with DECA, and it's mostly with the professional bodybuilders, especially those that are taking high doses, you take too much of that, it gives you something called DECA dick. But in other words, you're going to be horny, but you're not going to be able to perform. And it's because of some things going on inside your body. But at the doses they get for hormone replacement therapy, I'm told that's not an issue. I haven't tried that myself, but that's another one that some clinics will prescribe for hormone replacement therapy.
Correct. And by the way, I was in Mexico this summer for a few weeks, and at pharmacies over there, you can get Cystanon 250 over the counter without a prescription. You can get Decadurabolin over the counter without a prescription. So, of course, I packed my stuff when I went down. I went to the pharmacy day 1 or 2, picked up some Deca, tried it out while I was down there because I did have knee problems, and I just wanted to stack it with the sip just to see what would happen. And holy cow, it's incredible. Like it just stacks on top of the benefits of testosterone cypionate. I mean, I think the reason why I read so much about it when I was younger about the way that these two kind of work together with that nice synergy. I didn't have any water retention. I was incredibly strong when I went to the gym. Not much change, and it's a fairly low dose. I think it's only 50 milligram per 100 milliliters. As far as the concentration, and what they use it for down in Mexico is really just for like people with like muscle wasting diseases or things like that, probably if they have AIDS or HIV or something. But there's certain things that you can do to kind of experiment on your own. When you're outside of the country, places like Mexico, it's over the counter. It's not a big deal. I mean, I wouldn't recommend bringing it back because if you have a problem with customs, you probably, like the juice won't be worth the squeeze there. But while you're on vacation, just to add it to the protocol, it can be fun.
When I was at the 21 convention, there were a number of guys, and they tended to be the younger ones who were experimenting with hormone replacement therapy on their own, but they were doing so through the black market. And
I wouldn't do that.
No, I wouldn't do it.
What are your thoughts on that?
What's that?
What are your thoughts on that? Because there's a lot of guys that kind of self-administer.
I don't think it's a smart move long term. You get yourself in trouble, lots of trouble legally here in the United States.
You don't really know what you're getting either, right?
Well, that's
you could be getting peanut oil in a vial with a stamp on it. It's not doing anything.
You see people getting these massive infections from injections of stuff that they got from either China or Mexico. You don't know what the standards are wherever that stuff is made, or if it's made in a home lab. Why not go with the real stuff from a pharmacy and a real doctor here in the States? It's affordable. It's practical. It's the right way to do it.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of guys in their 20s and 30s want that because they want to be bigger and they want to take the shortcuts and they don't want to do the work. But man, like when I was in my 20s, I mean, I was 205 pounds. I was solid. I was ripped. Like I looked like Arnold Schwarzenegger. And all I did was I ate right and I picked up heavy things and I put it down. I don't even know what my testosterone levels were back then. I have no idea, but I was looking better than what I am right now. I mean, like I'm carrying probably a little bit of water in my body because testosterone does that a little bit, but who cares? I mean,
can you let me zip out for 1 second? I'll be right back.
Yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead. Let me see what questions we got here in the chat while Pat zipped out over here. See what we got here. What's the average cost of TRT? $100 a month for protocol. Yeah, somewhere between $100 to $200 a month should make a lot of sense. A lot of snake oil out there for sure. I mean, when I was around 25, I met this chick. I went out on a date with her, and she was telling me how she was compounding fake steroids in her basement with her ex-boyfriend using oils like peanut oils, soy oils, stuff like this, and then selling them to guys in the gym. I don't recommend that you go that route. I mean, some guys do because they want to, test it out and give it a try, but you don't know what you're getting. A lot of it is fake. And like Pat just mentioned, you can get the real stuff from a pharmacy. If you're deficient, you can get a script for it. It's pretty simple. Let's see what else we got in here. Intense workouts. Yeah. Yeah. So TRT, yeah, John just said it right there. It's testosterone replacement therapy. Fairly straightforward. So today's broadcast, by the way, guys, we're talking about optimizing your hormone panel as you get older as a guy, because these things happen. You know, you will eventually slow down. Your hormone levels will not be optimized. One of the things I really want to hit on again and really emphasize is vitamin D. You know, as Pat mentioned earlier, if you live north of the tropics, like the Tropic of Capricorn, Tropic of Cancer,
right,
you know, north or south of that, you're probably deficient in vitamin D. And vitamin D, you know, although it's called a vitamin, there's a lot of studies and there's a lot of guys in this practice, in this space. And I'm not an expert. I'm not pretending I'm an expert. I'm not a doctor. I'm not giving you medical advice here. I'm just speaking from experience. We both are. But men are, like all men and women, are going to be deficient in vitamin D if you live north or south of those tropics.
right.
So supplementing with something that is going to get you to where you need to be will certainly be helpful. It's a critical hormone. It's not just a vitamin, it's a critical hormone. And the only way you can check it is by pulling blood labs, right?
Yeah. And like I said, 70 or 75% of the population, adult population, is vitamin D deficient. It's you know, is a big problem here in the States. And because you're not getting the sun. Also, like my father-in-law, got him on vitamin D, taking anywhere from 5 to 20,000 IUs per day. And the reason is he suffers from seasonal depression. In other words, in the winter months, you know, he gets down unless he exercises, unless he gets vitamin D. And you find out, you know, you see patients, medical patients, people that have had heart problems, guys in particular. A couple things that you notice with guys that have had heart attacks, they'll all have lower T levels, they'll all have low vitamin D levels. You know, that's not a coincidence.
We got a question here from John T. He's put it in the super chat. I'll tell you what my blood labs include, so you have an idea. Let me start from page 1 here so you can cover them. So listen up. We have, this was March 19th. Yeah, March 19th. So we have on the Canadian panel, hematology, white blood cell count, red blood cell count, hemoglobin, hemocrit, MCV, MCA, like all of that stuff kind of falls in that panel naturally. You've got differentials. I don't even know what these are. The doctor knows. General chemistry for hemoglobin, you know, which kind of ties into the density of red blood cells, white blood cells, you know, the thickness of your blood, stuff like that.
Sure.
What is this? Insulin T fasting, thyroid function, tumor markers. So prostate specific antigen, they track that to see if you're, you know, susceptible to prostate cancer.
Can we talk about that for a minute? The PSA.
Yeah,
okay.
PSA is standard for stuff like this.
Well, a couple things here you need to know that, and especially guys that are on hormone replacement therapy, it's very easy to get an elevated PSA. You need to let your doctor know, if you don't already, that you're taking testosterone, because that could throw. The other thing that people don't understand, and I've had this problem myself, I've gotten crazy PSA results, and part of the reason is I had sex the day before. I personally need to abstain from sex for several days to get an accurate reading on a PSA. It'll actually, if you had sex the day before, sometimes even 2 days before, it can, in some cases, throw your test off, and you're going to get a number that's artificially high. Most guys don't know that.
Got it. Carrying on, we've got reproductive gonadal, like estradiol, so your E2, DHEA levels, testosterone bioavailable, 25 hydroxy vitamin D, and that's it. You know, those are the main things, really. You know, you can also get it pulled so that it checks your HGH level, your human growth hormone.
What they check for is it's called your
once a year.
Yeah, your IGF-1 level. That's what they're looking for. That tells you what your growth hormone levels are for. Yeah.
Yeah. So I check that once a year to see where that's at. I mean, if I want to supplement with that in the future, I can always go with that. But just go to a doctor that knows what the hell he's doing, and he specializes in treating the male endocrine system, not some whack job or a quack that just says that. Like, a lot of doctors will just try to prescribe you some kind of antidepressant. We were talking about this off the air. So you're not feeling good, you're not optimal with your hormones. You go in and he's like, well, let me give you a script for this, and it's an antidepressant. And then all of a sudden you're not having sex anymore because, you know, you're just like a vegetable. You're zoned out, and your Johnson won't even get hard. Like, it just won't work. You're not even going to have any kind of ambition whatsoever. Like, they're just bad. You want to stay away from treating like male hormones with antidepressants. You want to treat it with male hormones. Is basically what you want to do.
There's a lot of drugs, pharmaceuticals that will impact. When I talk to guys and I say, how many of you out there are getting morning wood on a regular basis? Okay, not a lot of hands pop up, especially when they're 40 and older. There's a whole sort of a number of reasons for that. If you're diabetic, if you're a smoker, okay, but there's drugs in particular that can wreak havoc on your libido. Statins are first most on that list, and it's dose dependent. Statins, they give you to lower your cholesterol. There's a host of drugs out there that can adversely impact your libido and just your total sex drive in general that people don't know about. I've had friends that have been on statins, and they feel. One guy I worked with, 35 years old. Goes home. I don't have any energy. I don't want to do anything. I sit on the couch. I just feel like crap. I don't want to have sex with my wife. And then he starts rattling off the litany of drugs that he's on, and the dose of statins they had him on was ridiculous. And that was what was causing all the problems. And again, if he had gone to a doctor, the doctor would have put him on an antidepressant. Mm-hmm. So it's just crazy.
We got another super chat from Jar AJ. Thank you for that. He says, what about men with congenital heart disease? I'll speak to that. My dad had a heart attack about 10 years ago, and he got the green light a couple months ago to go on TRT when I recommended it to him. So the belief, or sorry, the stigma that's been out there for a long time is that testosterone is bad for the heart. But think about it logically. Yeah, think about it logically. The heart is a muscle.
Right. Your
testosterone levels naturally decline as you get older. How many guys in their 20s do you know with heart disease? How many guys in your 20s you know that have a heart attack? It just doesn't happen. So they're starting to connect the dots here, and they're starting to see there's a lot of evidence that suggests that testosterone is preventative for congenital heart disease. It's going to protect your heart. It's actually also going to delay the onset of things like Alzheimer's and dementia and all kinds of other mental disorders too, right?
Yeah. Speaking of that, the prostate. Okay, a lot of I told you how they had my dad. They gave him a series of shots that completely eliminated his body's testosterone. Mm-hmm. Stop and think about this. If testosterone were the culprit, what age range would we see people drop? It'd be teenage boys going through puberty. That's when your testosterone's through the roof. It's the highest. The testosterone's not the bad guy. If you actually look at the medical literature out there now, they're leaning more and more in the direction of the estrogen, and it's because of the testosterone decline and the estrogen increasing. That's when you start to see the prostate cancer popping up in guys.
Yeah. What else we got here? Don't have any other questions. All right. So, Pat, what have you been up to lately, man? You've been doing this radio show like crazy with Rollo. I want to talk about that for a little bit.
Okay. Which one? The podcast or my regular show?
Yeah, like your regular show on Friday, because you got into the Rational Mail and you brought him in as a guest, and now he's a regular guest. Like, how has that segment changed you and your life right now as a man?
Well, a couple of things. When I first started listening to him, or actually reading the book, I first got the book on Audible. I realized that he's got a rather unique perspective, and I listened to a couple of podcasts you guys did, even on the Audible version of the book, the language, because I'm on terrestrial radio, we got to clean it up. But I think he's got a message that maybe was originally designed or targeted to guys maybe 20 to 40. And I think the message can go a lot broader than that. I think there's guys in their 40s, 50s, 60s, and beyond that are thirsting for this kind of information that he's got. It's amazing the feedback I get from the listenership too. It's always like the most controversial show of the week. I mean, everybody's talking about Rollo being on the show, and it's just been a blast. And we've also segued that into a Sunday, like Red Pill 101, that just the two of us have been doing Sunday afternoons at 4:30. I was sort of drawn to his book because of some things that were going on in my own life. And I realized that I had been duped. I had been what he calls a tradcon, a traditional conservative. I was sort of the goon squad for the religious right. I'm the enforcer. I'm the guy that keeps everybody else in line. And I'm not going to play that role anymore. The only person I'm responsible for is myself, and I guess my children to a certain extent, while they're still living under my roof. But I'm tired. I'm tired of being used or manipulated, especially by religion. In fact, one of the things Rollo is working on right now is that fourth book on religion. He's actually asked me to write the foreword for it, because this is the linchpin. This This is the enforcement mechanism. This is how they keep guys like you and me and Rollo in line, so we don't step out. We conform to that femme-centric model that he talks about all the time. Mm-hmm. So I mean, his work. People get pissed off at me because, like, on Friday, I have Dr. Everett Piper from Oklahoma Wesleyan University on before him, and he's certainly a Christian, and I guess some people would say a member of the religious right. And then I'm bringing on this guy Rollo, who has a message that's counter. Well, I'm not bringing Rollo on as any sort of religious leader or telling people how to live. He understands how the game is played. Guys have been duped. We've been playing a game. We don't even know the rules. Imagine wanting to play football, American football, okay? For the first time, you go on the field, but you don't know how it's played. You'd be at a complete loss. You get plowed over by other people on the field. He's got the rules for the game. He understands the dynamics between the two sexes. And then we tie it into different stories that are out there in the news all the time. So I think it's been great for my program. It has actually grown my audience, especially with men, probably, I want to say 25 to 50. That's where I'm seeing a lot of growth with any other guest in 20 plus years of radio. Never had it with any other guests.
Yeah, it's it's crazy that one book series did that. How did that change like your relationship with your wife and your kids?
It just it's funny. I had my two oldest daughters are married. Okay, so my second oldest daughter, Rachel, was over here. Oh, I can't remember what it was, around Christmas time, with her husband, and they don't have any kids. And I got into the whole conversation. My son-in-law was loving it. My daughter was squirming though. I'm there like, why would a guy want to even get married in 2019? I mean, what's in it for him? It's a negative loss all the way around, because she doesn't have kids yet. That's like the one thing that would be there. And she doesn't have that. She says, well, for companionship. I said, he can get a dog, just going through the things. It's made me sort of just sit back and, like you say, reassess everything that's going on. I think people should, as a general rule, every, couple of years, you should sit down, okay, and rehash the thing.
I think we might have lost him. Guys, let me know in the comments if he froze up on your end. Can you see? Might have lost him. Hold on a second here. Let's see. Oh, he's back.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. Something happened.
There you go.
So where did I leave off? I don't know when I went blind.
You were talking about your daughter and what's in it for men to get married.
She was getting really ticked off with me because my son-in-law was loving it though. He's just sitting back with a big cheese on his face. It's I don't know if I were 30 years old, okay, in 2019, would I get married again given the current landscape? I probably not. I don't see what's in it for men right now.
Now, you're a fairly religious guy, right? I mean, right. Like you talk about God, you talk about that relationship. So even with that, you would still set aside the notion of marriage. Like, would you pair bond? Would you have kids? Because I mean, like a lot of guys ask me, they're like, I want to have kids, but I'm scared as hell. And this whole, world that I live in today doesn't make any sense. How do you
let me respond to that. Okay. So I'm raised Roman Catholic. I still practice my religion. I go to church every Sunday. Catholics get married. The church teaches that marriage is for two reasons. Okay. It's unitive. Literally, the two become one, and it's open to the procreative. In other words, having children. The reason I got married was to have kids. If I didn't want to have kids, I don't think I would have got married. It wouldn't have made sense to me. That's why I got married, to have kids.
Yeah. That's good. All right. We wanted to run this for about an hour. I think we're up on the hour. Okay. I'm going to switch the screen over here because I got the bottom frozen up. So guys, want to thank you for watching. I'm with Pat Campbell. He's a terrestrial radio host. What is it? 1170 AM was it?
Talk Radio 1170, right, in Tulsa, Oklahoma. In fact, I'll give you the links. I'll give you the links to my Facebook page and my Twitter. You can put those up there. Yeah,
here I'll grab your links and I'll put them in the chat. Actually, if you can link them for me in our group chat, then it's easier for me to copy and paste them over. So on with Pat Campbell. You can follow him on Twitter. I think it's PC 1170.
That's correct. Yeah,
PC 1170 on Twitter.
And on Facebook, it's facebook.com/PC1172.
There you go. And he's on every Friday at what time with Rollo?
I'm on Monday through Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. Central. Rollo's on with me Friday in the 8 o'clock hour Central.
There you go. So you can listen to it anywhere. It's available online. I often tune in. Rollo tweets it out, so you can listen to it live as well. Again, thanks, Pat, for joining me today. It was great for you to share all those experiences, especially with optimizing your hormone panels. I know there was a lot of questions from these guys. You got stuff to do. I got stuff to do. So
next time, I know you got some trouble. Next time, we got to talk about workouts, routines, and eating in particular. My eating has changed drastically since about the age of 45, and I think yours has too.
Definitely. So in the comments below, guys, let us know if you want us to do another podcast or a broadcast on that topic. Thanks a lot, Pat. We'll see you guys.
Have a safe trip. Take care, man.
Peace.
Bye-bye.